This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Hey, this is Monte Mohr. I'm the owner, broker of Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and this is Carey Ann, and I'm with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And welcome back
Carey
Sunday
Ann,
evening.
so good to see you.
So good to see you.
I look so forward to this time together where we can share the secrets of building wealth and with real estate, and we can share the secrets of maximizing the value of your home, and we can share the secrets of helping buyers get their best deal possible. I mean, there's just so many awesome things that we've learned over the years.
We have.
Combined, I mean, you've been doing this for 15 years now, something like that?
Close, yes.
And 35 for me. That's, let's do the math on that. That's 50 years of experience.
Wow.
And how many thousands? You helped 613 over 613 families, if I recall.
Yes.
Last year alone.
Last year. Mm-hmm.
That's a small town. That's incredible.
Yes, and 90% purchase transactions as well. So understanding how we can help families gain home ownership is what we're all about.
Whoa. I mean, that really is, coming from my perspective of doing this for so long, I can't tell you how unusual that is to find somebody who can do that kind of business, and each person feels like they were the most important. That's the secret.
That is, selling service is really important.
Mm-hmm.
There's some large banks out there, big banks, or even big mortgage firms that are online, and they sell interest rates, but I always say nothing's ever for free, right? You have to kind of see exactly what you're getting out there and making sure that you're understanding the whole process and really, really get you to the finish line. So we sell service. We've got very competitive interest rates. Our fees are in line. Mm-hmm. And so with that combination is one that helps so many to be able to gain home ownership.
To me, as a real estate broker, that still helps, a lot of people each year, whether it's with me helping or one of our agents helping. Mm-hmm. It's empowering to be able to turn a client over to a great mortgage company. And I know there's some great mortgage companies out there.
There are. Mm-hmm.
I love working with you guys. I know that when I turn a client over, that I know they're going to be taken really well care of, because that's a reflection on my judgment. Nothing worse than having to apologize for somebody that you referred something to.
Well, we take your reputation to heart. It's really important. You work so hard to create a client, and for you to be so kind to refer it over to us, we want to make sure that we, do the best that we can. We have three big beliefs. We believe in never missing a closing date, always staying true to our word, and always doing what's right for both our referral partners and also our clients. And so that's really, really important. And we have that throughout the entire process, whether that's the person answering the telephone, to the processor, to the underwriter, to the sales folks. So,
and you really walk that out, Carey Ann. I don't know that there's another company in town, though, that has been able to make closings happen as quick as you do. And you said something really key, I think, a week or two ago, and that is, why drag this out? Because life can happen. Things can happen. People can change their mind or lose their job, or life happens.
Right.
And so let's go ahead and get it done quickly. I think Preston Rowland, one of my favorite people on the planet, doesn't he have one of the
fabulous.
Doesn't he have one of the quickest turnarounds? I mean, do you recall that one was like 8 days, or I forget, 14 days. I mean, it was really a short one.
Yes, I love a good challenge, and the law, if allowed, I probably would close them faster, but you have to wait 7 days, and then you can close on the 8th day.
Okay.
And so we have been known to be very fast at what we do, and again, not to speed the process up to make the client overwhelmed,
right,
or to miss something. Sometimes what we specialize in, not only with helping all families, but we specialize in the ones that are having the most difficulty getting approved. Mm-hmm. And so I never understand, and I would hate to be that real estate agent, or even the buyer, or even the seller for that matter, to get the call just a few days before the transaction is supposed to close and find out that they're not approved. As I was driving, here, actually, I got a call from a real estate agent who was, having some difficulties, over the weekend. Found out on Friday that, their buyer they were supposed to close, I think it's coming up Tuesday, and they just were found out that they're not going to get approved, right? And so that lender had that loan for 45 days, right? And so I see this on a regular basis, and I'm really blessed, kind of, if you heard my backstory, I came into mortgages on the ground level.
Well, that's what makes you really, really unique. think. Most people haven't had that starting with delivering the coffee.
Right.
And then
it's all about the right cup of coffee. You get that, loans are easy.
But it's all service. It's all serving from the heart. And
Sure.
you so exemplify that. But that's one of the things I think that really has to be, expanded on sometime is how you started from the ground up and how you understand what the underwriter's looking for from all levels.
Right, and being an underwriter for a short period, it is important to see it from their side,
Absolutely.
right? Sometimes sales folks go in it on just trying to sell the deal,
right.
and they'll deal with that later. Well, that deal will never close if you deal with that scenario later.
Right.
I'm big on looking through an entire application, flag things that I see of concern, and getting answers on those immediately. And so we can overcome any issues, and so I can stay true to my word. You'll find when my letter comes through with that contract and it says that they're pre-approved or even approved, that is going to close. Not only is it going to close, it's going to close on time.
And that reputation is building out there. I got a call recently from your office assuring another agent that my buyer was good to go.
Right.
And I'm telling you, that's golden. That's empowering when you're an agent out there showing a bunch of property. Because here's part of the challenge, as most realtors that know out there, is that it's so competitive out there. The value of each transaction has only increased dramatically because back in, just a few years ago, there was only 5,000 realtors here in Middle Tennessee. Now that's doubled. It's over 10,000 right here in Middle Tennessee. So you can imagine how many fingers are in the pie. That makes each transaction that much more critical. So having a lender that will reach out to the other side, the listing side of that transaction when you're about to present an offer, so important.
So important. But the other thing that's really important is the lender is going to ask you all these different types of questions. It's called a loan application.
Right.
And it's really important that you share the truth on that, right? And so if they ask, are you an hourly wage borrower? You say yes. Is that 40 hours? You say yes. Then we get pay stubs and it's actually 32 hours and not 40. Something just rounding up so slightly could cause what was an approval to be a denial, right? And so being truthful and sharing all of the information. Now, on the lender side, it's really important for that lender to ask all the right questions. One question may lead to another, right? And so doors continue to open, and it's really important for us to really be true to our word. We have to understand fully their whole situation. I always say, just tell me your story. Tell it to me. We all have had one, right? Just tell it to me.
We live in a fishbowl in today's world. There's no point in trying to deny something happened because it's going to come back and bite you.
Yes. I always say, lenders are detectives. Underwriters are detectives. They're going to find out somehow. I'd rather us find out today and work through the solution than find out 2 days, prior to closing.
And then try to heal the problem when there's not enough time.
Yeah. And a lot of folks say, well, Carey Ann, why are you able to approve loans where others were not, right? Do you really have a magic wand? Do you really, twiddle your nose? What is the true storyline there? And it really comes down to understanding that every lender has different guidelines. There's different expectations and understandings. And we at CMG Financial, we're a direct lender.
Right.
And so if the agencies allow that, we allow for that. And so you'll find that sometimes the folks that are getting approved, it may be that the lender may have a different guideline requirement than I will, or the folks that work within our organization, and that's the reason for that. And sometimes it is, I had a situation where a loan was, a lender did not want to approve a loan because the borrower didn't have 2 jobs for 2 years. Okay, 2 jobs for 2 years.
Wow.
So I said, does he qualify with 1 job?
Tricky question.
Tricky question. And guess what? He did. And so all I had to do was remove one of the second jobs. Sometimes people get so overwhelmed with maybe it has to fit within that box and maybe we don't even need to go that direction, right? We strip it down and put it back together. I always call it a big puzzle, put all those puzzle pieces back together and find the right program. Not every program. Sometimes programs are easy for lenders, so they want to go left versus right. Finding the right program for a lender is sometimes not easy for a lender. I mean, it takes time, right?
Sure.
You have to go through a lot, and and we're really dedicated to make sure that we, go through those extra steps.
Knowing the options, though, I think that's part of why you're so good at this.
Well, you need to be a master of your craft, right?
Right.
So it means that you have to educate yourself. You have to train. You do that. And for us as lenders, understanding our guidelines. Guidelines don't just stay there.
Right.
The full 10 years, they change on a regular basis.
Right.
And so we have to be thinking 2 steps ahead and kind of understanding exactly the new changes, with all the guidelines and be ready.
Carey Ann, answer me this question. I hear this all the time on this topic of lending.
Uh-huh.
And that is, I ran into I was working with an older gentleman the other day, and I suggested that he work with you.
Sure.
He said, well, my bank XYZ, has all my information, so
Right.
I know it's going to be, they've told me it'll be a lot easier if I just go ahead and do my financing with them. Now, I tried to tell him that's really not true, that they're still going to have to provide everything that anybody else is going to. But how would you respond to that?
Right. I mean, now with technology, things have changed a little bit, but you still, if you are, they do have your banking information.
Right. That's
they may
what they
not
have.
have your income and your
Right.
other, documentation that is needed, depending on if they are retired, if they're receiving, direct deposits of Social Security and things, that may be that we only need to provide bank statements,
Right.
So we work really hard to try to understand the customer's needs and wants, and try to make it as smooth as possible. But, I always say, there's a bank side and then there's a mortgage side. So they still have to walk across the hall, and get that mortgage as well.
It's a total different animal. The banks are really good at banking. They're not always so great about mortgages, is my experience. And I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying some of them are so big and so top heavy that they've lost that personal touch that you're talking about.
Right. And keep in mind, my staff or my team, we may help 60 families a month. A large organization like that may be helping so many more, and you're just one of many. And they have to follow certain protocols. You're getting the sprinkle of Carey Ann and how she wants it operated, on from a local level, not so much the big bank level.
Right.
Absolutely. So, hey, what are we talking about today? We're going to do some questions here in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to do some questions.
We are. Hey, and we're going to be right back. You're listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Carey Ann, we're back, and we're answering some wonderful, awesome questions. Speaking of questions, we want to encourage everybody to send their questions to questions at talkmusiccity.com. That's questions at talkmusiccity.com. And
Yes.
you got this hashtag thing. How's that work?
Yes. Again, hashtag us at Talk Music City.
Awesome. Hey, before we get into our next topic, which is going to be identifying traits of a rock star realtor, which is going to be really important, I want to mention a few of the other topics that are coming up here. And we're getting some awesome questions, but
We are.
So
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you very, very much. It means so much to us to get these questions. One of the topics here is, are online estimates of your home's value accurate? I think we know that the Z Company is good about putting people's values supposedly out there, so we'll talk about that not in the near future. So another regular question is selling your home as a pocket listing a good idea?
Oh.
Seems like a good idea. Not sure that it is.
What is a pocket listing?
A pocket listing is when you don't put it on MLS. And let's say you came to me as a realtor.
What is MLS?
Multiple listing service.
Right. I'm learning.
Oh, okay. So
Our listeners are learning, right? We're educating.
That's right, and motivating.
We are.
Everything real estate. So in a pocket listing is simply, it's kind of an undercover. I want to sell, but I really don't want anybody to know about it.
Oh, I see.
I don't want to put it on MLS. I don't want people walking through my house. But since I like you, Mr. and Miss Realtor, I'm going to let you know that I will sell my home, for $100,000 more than it's worth. I mean, or something like that. Okay.
Sure.
Another question here we're going to get into is, so you're thinking of getting into real estate. Good idea or not so good? Carey Ann, it is a challenge market out there when it comes to competition, and anybody getting involved needs to make sure that they understand that this business is not for the weak of heart. I'll never forget back in 1980. I'm not sure you were born yet. Were you in 1983?
Well,
barely.
I'm 29 forever plus 13, so I was there with you.
I'm not good with math without a calculator. Okay, so I'm thinking you're running around like Aubrey or something like this at that point in life. Probably.
I probably was.
Probably. So I got a really a tough start in real estate. It was Average sale price $64,000. I had gone months without even knowing what I was doing. And I finally found a buyer, and I'm looking all over for a house for them that they were wanting that they could afford. It had to be a certain school district, but it also they had to be willing to pay the buyer's closing costs because they didn't have very much money.
Sure, right.
So long story short, we got to the finish line, and well, before that. Actually, you've heard that requirement from the appraisal services that, okay, the house needs a roof.
A roof?
A roof, okay. A roof, yes.
We're starting to sing a song here in just a second.
Shingles, top of the house,
yeah.
A roof, okay?
The roof.
The roof.
The roof,
okay.
No.
So anyway, the sellers of that house that my buyers wanted to buy said, no, we're not putting a new roof on that house. Mm-hmm. We don't have the money to do it. So my client happened to be a construction guy, so he said, I'll put this roof on this house. And
okay.
He doesn't own the house, but he's putting a roof on the house, okay? So for the next 2 weekends, he's putting a roof on a house that he doesn't own. Anyhow, long story short, we get to the closing table. Now, back then,
I can only imagine what's about to happen.
As you know, back in the day, we all gathered around one table. Okay, we were
friends back then.
Yeah, before there was some fist fights around the table, we used to do it that way. So nowadays we do our closings, as you know, in separate buildings, usually separate closing attorneys. Back then we got around one table. So I get to the closing office, and the other broker is there, the seller is there, and my buyers are not.
The missing buyers.
The missing buyers that were so serious. And I kept reassuring them, look, guys, I know they're serious.
Right.
Because they put a roof on a house they didn't own. Okay. They've got to be serious in order to do that, I would think. So
you would.
So half an hour goes by. Finally,
are they still on the roof is the question.
I got a call from Mrs. Buyer crying. And I'm thinking, oh no, what's happened? I'm feeling, holy cow. She goes, we've lost our certified check, because back then even now you bring up certified check. Well, they lost their certified check. The husband had put it on the seat of the pickup when they were moving, and it disappeared.
Okay.
And about then, and I'm telling my clients, the other broker there, and the other broker says, he's sweating bullets. You can tell he's nervous.
Sure.
He says, I don't know if you noticed the county cop car out there in the front. Uh-huh. He said, I thought this was closing last week as it was scheduled, and I wrote some checks I shouldn't have. And he's here.
No.
He's here to arrest me if I don't bring him a commission check.
This is starting to sound like a Lifetime movie here, Monte.
I'm serious. This is my first transaction.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so it's interesting, when sometimes... being in the Bible Belt, sometimes we have people say, well, God doesn't want me to buy this house. And my response is typically, well, God sure as heck doesn't want me in the business then, because this is my first transaction. And I share that experience with them about how if I was going to be moved by what looked like it was going to be easy or hard, I wouldn't have stayed in that business. So anyhow, the point of that story is simply our topic that's going to be down the road here is getting a real estate license a good idea or not. So,
right.
Okay. Don't have
good topic.
Not for the weak of heart.
And I think you can flip that too. Folks want to get into the lending side. Sometimes they think it's a lot easier than it is. Quickly take an application. It's the power of numbers. You have to take 10 applications to find maybe one approval. Sometimes it's like going to Las Vegas. 2 weekends ago, I took 15 applications, and everybody had over, I think it was, 14 over 600 and one was under, right?
Wow. And
then last weekend, 15 applications and one was over and 14 were under 600. So it's just the power of numbers, right? So, but it is a good topic. People sometimes, which I guess is flattering if you make it think that it's so easy, but I'm blind over here in one eye and you're beautifully gray. Maybe because, too funny. Hey, so we've got some good questions coming in.
Before we go down that road, can you mind just pausing again on this mortgage topic? There was something we didn't get to finish because we ran out of time the last session. So one thing I want to make sure the listeners understand the importance of is because I see these online lenders. We don't need to name any of them, but I see these online lenders coming in and trying to validate to the local realtor or the local consumer how wonderful they might be.
Sure. Now,
I've learned after 35 years of this that the only route to go, I think, is with a local lender that has local accountability. From my perspective, if you don't with a local I will look at. I mean, look. Let me share it this way: if we're looking at multiple offers on a property, and I'm weighing each thing out, if it's a online lender, I will take a lesser valued offer with a local lender who's got local accountability that I can reach out to, and I can know somebody that is locally accountable versus somebody who is up in wherever, and that buyer is in a stack of files on a desk. You know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's some clients out there that are very rate sensitive, and so an eighth of an interest rate, or let's just say, a quarter or an eighth, is something that will move them. I had a customer talking with us, and they found a bank out in Michigan, that they were going to be promised a certain rate. Nothing's ever for free. So if you are going to be getting an interest rate, ask what the costs are associated with that, right? And so I think you're right. Working with somebody that you actually can walk into their office and see them face to face and know that they're legit and that you can trust them is really important. Trust comes with just time and understanding that their actions and their words have to meet up. And so if you've never worked with them before, it's hard to trust them. And really, as the agent, you're probably going to be focused on making sure and following up on a regular basis, with somebody that you're working with that's local and your customers that are working local. You, as the agent, can focus on what you do best, which is selling real estate, right? Not just being the person behind the computer trying to follow up and hunt down, and then you don't get the call back. With working with someone that you trust, no news is good news. It's the opposite when you're working with someone that you haven't worked with in a while, or ever, for that matter.
To me, it's so frustrating to have that person out and wherever they're at and not be accountable and not really seem like they care at the end in that situation.
Hey, we've been talking so quickly. We never even got to the topic of this segment. Hey, so you are listening to the talk of Music City Real Estate. We're going to be back. We have some great questions to talk with you about.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Great to see you tonight, Carey Ann. It's a beautiful day to be selling real estate, isn't it?
It is, every day. We're blessed. I'm on this kick, this workout kick. You turn a certain age. My mom says I need maybe not, it's not about so much your figure, maybe it is, but it's all about, keeping your heart moving.
Absolutely.
When in our stressful jobs that we're in,
absolutely,
folks over a certain age are more likely to have heart attacks that my mother continues to remind me about on a regular basis. It's really quite positive. And so I'm on this bike, and I found this, it's Peloton. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's a great trainer there. Love her. And she's so motivating. And I just listen to her just because she motivates me every day. But she basically says, get up, let's do this, because it's a privilege for you to be here and to be overwhelmed and to be sweating, this type of thing. And so it is a great day to sell real estate. Every day we wake up is a good day. So
I love serving people. I think that's why I've been with this occupation for 35 years. I just love the privilege and the honor to serve people in their largest asset, their home.
Yeah, we solutionize problems.
Solutionize a word?
I don't know. I made it up. I don't think I always use it.
I think it's a wonderful word. I'm going to start picking. Do you have a patent on it?
It does come up in red a lot that says, this is not a word, Carey Ann. But you'll find people in my office say I have Cyrisms, because that's my last name, Cyr. So they're Carey Ann made up words.
Oh,
so that's my own word. So I'm going with it. However, that's what we do. We solve problems on a regular basis, and we help people to the finish line. So yes, we love that.
Part of our occupations. Love it.
So want to talk about, we've got a couple questions here that came in. And again, thank you, everybody. If you do have a question or a topic suggestion, please reach out to us at questions@talkmusiccity.com. Again, questions@talkmusiccity.com. If you're one that likes to hashtag us at Talk Music City. So we have a great question here from Betty T. She's in Nashville, Music City. Hey, Betty T. So great question here. I have had a home on the market for over 6 months and have had only a few showings and no offers. What can I do to get more activity on my home? My agent says to lower the price of the house, and I really do not want to do that. What are your thoughts on that one, Monte?
Yeah, well, Betty, I'd like to come up with another solution, but the bottom line, if your agent is saying that, I'd have to trust your agent, that you've kept this agent for 6 months. There must be a reason for that, so they must be doing their job. You know, we are so often what we're supposed to be doing is a magic act sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're supposed to sell something that's worth more than what it is to somebody who clearly doesn't want it, and it's our fault if it doesn't happen.
Sure.
So Betty, thank you so much for the question, but in all sincerity, I would listen to your agent. You know, I'm glad if you want to send us your MLS information or a second set of eyes, but that's only with the promise that you're going to keep your agent in place, because I think your agent's telling you the right information, and that is simply, it comes down to eventually the price. That is, it's not, I mean, whether it's location, whether it's steep driveway, whether it's a busy street, or whether it's whatever, it's probably a price issue if the home hasn't sold after 6 months.
Question for you, Monte. So you and I are working on selling my home or house, whichever. And you...
It's a house when you're selling. It's a home when you're buying.
Oh, good information. That's good.
It's a little
good info.
Moorism.
Yes, Moorism. Hey, we're writing our own book here later.
Right, that's right.
So how long does a listing last, I guess, with a particular agent? You know, is that you have to sell it within a period of time? Do you commit to that? Is that per each home? How does that work?
It's a great question. You know, I personally have a conviction that's maybe not customary, but it's pretty common that it's a 6-month listing agreement.
Oh, it is. Okay.
And the theory behind that is, look, I've got to have enough gas I've got to have enough fuel in my car to make it on a trip. Okay,
Sure.
This is a trip. The challenge I have with that sometimes, because I think there's sometimes not enough leeway in that, and I apologize ahead of time for anybody that doesn't agree with this, but my conviction is, if I'm trying to win you as a client for life, then why would I lock you into agreement that you're not happy with?
Oh.
Okay, so my belief is I work on a day-to-day agreement. And again, I know that not everybody does that, and God bless them, you know.
Right.
I just feel like the bigger cause is to develop that relationship. That's what it's really all about. You're trusting me with your largest asset. I want you to be happy. And now I also remind you, though, that this goes both ways. If you want to be a pain in the behind, I can fire you, okay?
Oh, sure.
So my point is, it's a day-to-day agreement with the understanding that, look, this is win-win. This has got to be it. My conviction is, if it's not win-win,
Right.
It's not win for everybody.
Respect level for both sides. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, good. So do you have a
question,
good question over there? What question do you have?
I do. I have one right here from Jenny in Nashville. She says, my question is to Carey Ann. I've been working hard on getting my credit turned around from a prior life. Boy, don't we all know about prior lives. Anyways, I'm sorry for pausing there. I had a flashback. So let me read it again here. I've been working hard on getting my credit turned around from a prior life. Can you share any additional secrets that would help? This question's for Carey Ann.
Great question. Who's that from again?
Jenny.
Jenny, thank you so much. You know, credit is something that really passionate about. We talk a lot about credit. You know, all lenders are going to be looking for a credit score. They are going to be looking at the 3 bureaus. We call it a tri-merge. And so if you don't know, they're going to be pulling from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And so they're looking for the middle of the 3 scores.
Okay.
And so you could have 3 different scores. And sometimes I always say, you know, there's no rhyme or reason to credit scores sometimes, right? I wish it was 2 + 2 is 4. It's very specific, right? It's not. And sometimes you have to kind of throw common sense out the window, because what I see on credit and the score related doesn't match up sometimes as well. And a lot of folks can check their credit on online companies, but when they come to the lender, they always ask, Carey Ann, you know, why is your score different than the one I saw online, right? And so the lenders work with different algorithms, and so understand that your credit score online and what the lender is going to pull are going to usually be 2 different credit scores. So number one, we want to make sure everybody understands that, because that's one big thing that we see a lot of the time. I'm so excited. My credit score is blank, right? I saw that online, and then we pull it and their score is a lot lower. There cannot be any way that there's no possibility for that to be so low. What did you do to my score? It's always my fault, you know, type of thing. But I try to educate and kind of walk them through that.
Now, is it because they're looking at only one of those 3? Is that why there's a discrepancy there? Or why are they getting one number and you're getting another?
Well, there's different formulas to calculate those numbers from the lender standpoint versus the ones that are online.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the reason why. Now, and it could vary 20 points here or there, so there could be a shift. I had one customer just this past week. One had an 800 credit score for one bureau, 699 on another.
Wow.
And
that's a big difference.
It is a huge swing, right? And if you think about it, each account that you have may not report to all bureaus. Okay. Every collection may not report to all bureaus. So what's causing one bureau to drop in score may not cause the other. So that's really good to understand. But we're looking to try to boost our scores. So there's a few things that you and I can do, and it doesn't matter if you're trying to boost someone's score that is a 550 or a 600, a 700, or even a 720. I work with folks that want to boost their score so they can get the best of the best interest rate. And understand the highest tier is a 740 credit score. So if you and I are coming in at a 705 credit score, that is a great credit score. I congratulate my clients, but we want to work to get them over the threshold of 720 or even 740, because that's both going to help the interest rate and the mortgage insurance factors. And we'll talk about that later on a different show, but those are things that are all going to improve. So ways to boost your credit score. Really work on having a healthy balance of installment to revolving debts. So some folks that I see have student loans, car payments, all of these installment furniture loans, right? They're installment, and they don't have any revolving. So they're heavy one way versus the other.
Wow.
So really having a healthy combination of both installment to revolving is key.
It makes that much of a difference between the two.
Right, because you understand, kind of an installment loan is a slow ticking process. It's going to get you there, just like the tortoise and the hare, but it's going to take you a while to get there. So if you're one that wants to boost your credit score really quickly, right? These are little tricks to help boost scores quickly. You want to have a healthy mixture of installment to revolving. And so some folks come to me and they don't have any revolving. And if their score is there, I say it's a good day. You're going to get a credit card, right? Or one that can't because their credit score is a little low and we're trying to boost it. We talk about them getting something called prepay credit cards, where they're secured to their own funds, where they can go usually to their local bank and establish a prepay credit card. And we always advise that they use those. Now, I'm not one to have you go gain a bunch of debt, but one that you can have managed debt. So I shop at the grocery stores, or I get my gas here, or my specific, things that I do on a regular basis are over here. I would have you, purchase those on that particular card and pay those on a regular basis. Positive credit history is important.
So instead of paying cash for stuff that you're getting every week, just go ahead and put it on a credit card and pay it off real quick.
Right, exactly. And so I think having that revolving, again, the mixture of a healthy combination is important. Now, paying your bills on time is key, right? We start there. But the key to that is we want to make sure that if you are going to be late, because we've all had a life, right? We've had a family emergency, something has happened, and you just cannot get there on a specific date. Just make sure that you're paying the minimum payment or the payment before 30 days, because after 30 days is when it's going to hit that credit report, and that's when it's going to sting and hurt the most, right? So understand that if you're overwhelmed and you don't have to pay the balance off on the Kohl's card. You just have to pay the minimum payment, right? And have it paid before 30 days. So I see a lot of delinquencies on these small retail credit cards that may only be $10 a month minimum payment or $25, and they're delinquent on those, right? Because they feel overwhelmed because they couldn't pay the full balance off, right? Just make sure that you're paying the minimum payment before 30 days. Also, the length of time that you've had the credit is really important. So if you're one that has had a credit card for a really long time, or you're a young millennial that's been attached to your mom or dad's credit card, don't close that out, because the longer you have credit, the better, right? So that's one thing. I see a lot of people saying, I don't need that card anymore. I'm just going to close it out. And I'm like, don't do that yet, because you just shut down that length of credit, right? Something that is also really good, if you do have credit cards, you don't want to max out that credit card, right? And so the key is making sure that everything is paid down to at least 50% of the high balance, or to maximize your point potential, you want to drop it down to 30% of the high balance. And that's really key. A quick little trick, call and ask when your creditor reports to the bureaus and make sure right before it's paid down 50 or 30% of the high balance.
Wow.
And that's going to help boost that credit score really, really fast. And lastly, if you're someone that is new to credit, has no credit at all, but your significant other has great credit, you can jump on as an authorized user to their credit and boost their credit over to yours as well. So that is one thing that we do a lot and help folks because of a timing. Again, mortgages and real estate is all about the right time.
Right.
And so if we're in a window that we have to boost someone's score so quickly, we may advise them to jump on their spouse's credit cards as an authorized user and pull that positive credit over to theirs.
Do they have to be married for that?
Nope, you can be an authorized user to a mom or dad, sibling, cousin, and different things like that. So that is all about credit. I'm really passionate about it,
Great information.
So if you have any more questions about that, you definitely can reach us out. But
so I hope Jenny's listening to those answers.
Yes. Hey, thanks for listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate. We'll be back.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Man, I love these questions that are coming in, Carey Ann.
They are coming in.
I mean, I love it that people are listening and sending in their questions that they've been wondering about. And we want to encourage everybody to continue to do so at questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com.
So this is a great question from Mary Beth out in Franklin. She says, first of all, we just love this radio program and how real you all both seem. So we are real.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mary Beth.
We've all been there. And so it is trying to bring some experiences to everybody here that we've gone through here. But so the question is, we are thinking about having a pool installed this year. Each company we've had out to give an estimate has told us we will get our money back for this investment when we sell. My mother says that is not true. What is your opinion on this topic? From Mary Beth out of Franklin.
Well, I would have to side with Mary Beth's mom, actually, on the topic. I hate to say that because I those pool companies out there don't want to hear this. But the truth of the matter is, a pool, of course, depending on what time of year it is when you're selling that home, the pool is either something people are really looking for or it's something they really don't want to have.
Sure.
Okay? We just bought a home, 9 months ago, as you know, and it had a pool, and I didn't really want a pool. I had a pool when the kids were little. I think a pool when the kids are little is a beautiful thing.
Lots of fun.
It is like having a child or two, though, to take care of. They do require regular stuff,
Right.
Even if you have somebody taking care of it, it's still an extra expense, So my personal conviction is if having a pool is important to you, I'd encourage you to try to help somebody else do that for you. In other words, find a home that's got a pool. I think that's a better investment because the bottom line is if you put $100,000 or $50,000 or whatever the number is in a pool, you'll be doing well to get half that back, probably.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, if we're talking about $1 million home, that's one thing.
Right.
If we're talking about the average home price around Nashville being somewhere in the $350,000 range and you put an in-ground pool in, depending on what county you're in, because of the rock situation, that's probably not going to be the best investment that you can do. Now, here's the other caveat to that, though, Carey Ann, is sometimes the value of quality of life makes it worthwhile. We just have to get away from the mindset of investment value.
Sure.
And look at the quality of life value. Now, if you've got kids, it's a wonderful thing because that's where the other kids are coming and migrating. So your quality of life, I think, is increased by having the place where all the other kids want to be.
Right.
Okay, so from that standpoint, I think as your real estate guide, I'd encourage you to weigh that part of it out and say, I think it'll be a great place for the kids to play. We'll have a great time. We're not going to move for the next 5 years or something like that. Now, if you're moving next year, we just had a client just a few months ago. We sold their home. They had the $150,000 pool put in May, and then decided to sell in July. They didn't know things were going to happen.
Oh,
okay?
right.
So be really careful of that situation.
Right. I think you're right. We want to put things in our home because of our likes and needs, not so much we have to be okay with the idea that we're not going to get dollar for dollar.
No, we're not. It's just the value of the personal enjoyment. That's the term I think we need to embrace is personal enjoyment. What's the value of that?
Right. Okay. There was a house that I had that my husband at the time had a bass boat. We had no place to put it. And so we redid the garage for the only sake for us, had to drop it down, move it over, and spend all this money. But it fit the needs and wants of us, knowing that we weren't going to get our money back, later.
Right.
So I think sometimes we do make those, changes in needs, but be understanding that dollar for dollar, it's just not going to be. Even though we know it's worth so much, well, it's worth that to us,
Exactly.
and maybe not to somebody else.
So often people say, well, I put all this money in this particular thing. Well, that's nice, and somebody will enjoy that, I'm sure, but don't expect, as you know, I just sold a house about 9 months ago, and we just bought it like 2 years prior to that, or a year prior to that, because we were going to be there forever, and I put a $30,000 koi pond in the backyard, okay?
It was a nice koi pond.
It was a nice koi pond, and we
I was very calm around that pond.
Yes, that was our zen place, okay? But when it came time to sell the house, that's nice. We like that. And
Nobody appreciated it
I tried
as
to
much
get them
as
to
you.
let me take it with me, but the guy didn't. No, he goes, I want it here, but I'm not going to pay you for it.
Right.
So.
And what I'm learning about with the pool, because I purchased a home that had a pool as well, everything breaks down after 4 years. So what you thought was going to be the cost of managing that pool just went up greatly in price. So kind of think through your warranties and everything on that as well. So
well, we learned
good
that the hard
information.
way as well. I mean, our pool is 10 years old now or something like that. And I was just telling somebody earlier today what that has cost us. It's like, holy cow. But again, if it's you got a young family, and I know Aubrey enjoys that pool, I'm sure.
Yeah, she is a swimming. She loves to swim for sure. She's getting me out there. I'm not so sure I'm a fan of swimming, but she's a big fan of swimming. So let's talk about, what are we going to talk about here on our last segment?
How the traits of a rock solid realtor.
Yes.
We're going to have to move along fairly quickly here. It looks like we're running out of time, I believe. So you want to start with it?
Yeah, so the traits of a good realtor. Let's talk about that for a minute. I can't get that right. Is that because I'm from the north or what?
I'm not sure what it's from.
Maybe because it's my music background. I want to add more beats to the word.
Is that what it is? A realtor?
Yeah.
Realtor?
Somebody told me a little bit ago, they said, Carey Ann, do you call your doctor Docator? I was like, no, I do not. Hey, so knowledge of the industry is power. That is so true. Having a real estate agent that is well educated and knows everything about the industry.
When we get an offer on our one of our listings, we gauge the value of sometimes of that, or the knowledge of that real estate professional on the other side, on what that offer looks like and how well are things filled out, and is it done properly. So we say here that knowledge of the industry is power, applied knowledge certainly, and the other part of that is, of course, that if that person is newer to the business, that they're being mentored by somebody who is consistently busy in the business. Okay, and I'm talking about not just time in the industry. I'm talking about that they're consistently putting deals together. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're not selling a home more than only a few times a year.
Sure.
How well can you know your trade, because it's constantly changing? So we want to make sure that somebody is. That we've looked at their track record, and either they are personally involved very, very, for a while and consistently in the business, or they've got somebody in their corner that's constantly helping them take care of those things.
It's very important here. It references that they need to know the market. That's key. Knowing the market. Absolutely
knowing the market, because
what's to come, right? Think in two steps.
Well, that part as well, but we live in such a diverse area here called Middle Tennessee, okay? For instance, if I go up to Clarksville and I take my Williamson County glasses with me to Clarksville, prices are different.
Right.
So I go in there with somebody new to the area and I tell them, oh my gosh, this is an incredible value at $300,000. And I wasn't an expert in that area. And then they write an offer for $300,000. Then they find out that home should have sold for $280,000 but I was convinced because I was looking at it through different eyes. So it's important to be a specialist. We get requests all the time to go out of our area, and I don't typically, because you do have to look at. We cover all of Middle Tennessee. Don't get me wrong, but we get requests sometimes to go to East or West Tennessee, and I'm not an expert there. It's not just the drive. It's
staying true to what you know, right?
Absolutely.
All right. The next one here is available when needed and returns calls same day.
I hate hearing about my peers not being responsive. It's such a big deal. And I get it. We're supposed to have a life. I'm not sure about that sometimes. You know how often, how much you're available. You're available all the time. And our occupation, either get over it or, maybe it's not best for you. It's familiar with local customs. This might be a sensitive topic because, we're getting so diverse, which is a beautiful thing. But some countries, negotiating back and forth is a daily thing over everything, and in this country, sometimes that can be pushed too far. Is what I've found. I mean, I had a client not long ago. They loved this young family that were buying their house, but they got so nitpicky and so grinding them in the negotiations that the end of when it was over with, when they were going to give them some furniture, they said, "No, we're not going to give them the furniture. We'd rather burn the furniture," just because they pushed the relationship too hard. Remember, it's got to be win-win.
I see.
Okay, and that's hard sometimes when you're coming from a different environment.
We talked a lot about this before, understanding the importance of using great vendors. There's so many amazing vendors out there when it comes to selling real estate or purchasing real estate. You need more than just a lender, right?
Boy,
so there's multiple different vendors out there, and we'll talk more about those here.
Closing attorney, home inspector, termite surveyor handy.
Home warranty.
This is what I have on here. We are only as good as those that we surround ourselves with, and that's so true in this case.
Absolutely, and everybody thinking the same way, being like-minded, believing in the customer, willing to think outside the box.
You fall into that category of financing for sure, and so do we on this side. As far as if we can't find the right property, we're willing to go out and knock on some doors or make things happen that way, or mailing, or some if we know of somebody really wanting a neighborhood.
And lastly here, work from a place of contribution and not of survival. That is one that's so important. Really just lead with your heart, not just, focus on this one particular transition. Don't spend the money before you even make it, right?
Well, exactly. And that's hard sometimes when you're dealing with 100% commission position, okay?
Right, absolutely.
So we'll always work from contribution.
Well, Monte, it looks like that wraps up another week here on the Talk of Music City Real Estate. For everybody, be sure to submit all of your questions at questions@talkmusiccity.com or hashtag us TalkMusicCity. We're looking for questions or topic suggestions. We look forward to seeing you back here next Sunday evening, 5 p.m. on the Talk of Music City Real Estate.